Hello, sixth graders. This is Miss Manning again. I thought it'd be fun to do another lesson through a video this week. So to start things off, we're actually going to do a little bit of review. So what you have in front of you is a list of 6 titles of different texts, and your goal is to match each of those 6 titles with one of the organizational patterns that we've been going over the last couple of weeks, and you have a foldable on them. And on your worksheet, you should see a space that says Review Organizational Patterns, and you want to write the name of the pattern on those 6 lines. I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to do this. And your 1 minute starts now. All right, so I'm now going to show you the answers, and I want you to check yourself and make corrections if you need to. So the first one, how to plan a backpacking trip, that should be sequential because we know that text is a how-to, which means it's speaking directly to the reader, which means it's using second person point of view, and you'll probably see numbered steps, which is sequential. Number 2, the story of Dwight Eisenhower, an American legend. This is probably a biography, which is going to tell the story of a person's life. Usually that uses time order, so that one should be chronological or narrative. Number 3, world's fastest sports cars. This is probably going to tell me about different types of sports cars, which is classification. Number 4, enough is enough, why we need to end bullying. In the title, there's a clear problem, bullying. And I know that the text is going to tell me how to solve the problem of bullying, so that uses problem solution. Number 5, the path of the storm, tracking the damage of Hurricane Katrina. This probably is going to be cause and effect because it's going to talk about the cause, the hurricane, and the effect, which is the damage. And then lastly, number 6, Bush and Obama, portraits of 2 presidents. Anytime I have 2 topics, the author's probably going to talk about their similarities and differences, so that one should be compare and contrast. So let's talk about what are we doing this week that is new. Our focus this week is something called reliability and validity. So you'll have in front of you a Freyer model. I want you to first write those 2 words in the center, reliability and validity. To start off with the definition, these 2 words mean trustworthy and believable. Trustworthy and believable. So as readers, we always want to look for information that has reliability and validity because we know we can believe that information. A lot of things that are written are designed to trick us, sort of, and we want to be on the lookout for those. One example of reliable information is information in a newspaper. If you're reading something in the newspaper, that's been checked, and it probably has really good sources. A non-example of a text with reliability and validity is information in a tabloid. Tabloids are those magazines that you often see when you're checking out at a grocery store, and they're really sensationalized. They tend to make up information based on one source or one person's viewpoint. And so we know that that's not exactly reliable or valid. Lastly, I want you to go ahead and draw a picture. I chose to draw a magnifying glass that goes over evidence. You can draw that. You can draw your own picture. It is totally up to you. Little example of what is reliable and valid, what is not. Newspapers, yes. Tabloids, no. So all week long, we're going to try to put text into one of these 2 categories. Are they reliable or are they not reliable? When we're making that consideration, there's many different types of evidence that we want to talk about. The first one is facts. Facts is information that can be proven true, which means it has no feeling words or judgments. An example of a fact. Raleigh is the capital of North Carolina. The word is, I highlighted, and you can highlight it too, because when we get a word like is, that's very different from a word like I think or I feel or should or would. The word is a fact type of word. We know that facts are reliable and valid. So that's what you're going to write in the last box, reliable and valid. Another type of evidence we're discussing this week is a statistic. Statistics are information in the form of numbers, which means it's measurable data. An example, according to the ASPCA, approximately 3.9 million dogs enter animal shelters nationwide each year. The number 3.9 million dogs is a statistic. It's something I can prove with math. The picture I chose for this is graphs. Usually when authors use graphs, they're to portray some kind of statistic. Statistics are really reliable and valid. Anything that I can measure, very trustworthy. Next, we have personal opinions. Personal opinions are feelings that are only true in the speaker's perspective. An example of that, pit bulls are violent, uncontrollable animals that should not be kept as pets. Words like violent, uncontrollable, those are kind of opinion words, right? Not all pit bulls are like that. That could be one person's personal opinion. It's very hard to prove. And then the phrase should not be kept as pets. A lot of people probably disagree with that. It's not a fact, it's a personal opinion. Personal opinions are unreliable. They are not valid in terms of evidence. Now, you can still include them as a writer, and you'll see a lot of writers include them, but just understand that those are not terribly reliable, and we always want to be on the lookout for personal opinions. Next, we're going to talk about expert opinions. These are feelings true to an expert in the field, like a doctor or a professor. An example, pit bulls aren't aggressive with people but are less tolerant of other dogs than many other breeds, says Pamela Reed, PhD, Vice President of the ASPCA's Animal Behavior Center in New York. I highlighted her position, PhD, Vice President of the ASPCA Animal Behavior Center in New York, because this shows that Pamela Reed is an expert. So she probably knows what she's talking about because she has a PhD. She's well educated. These are fairly reliable and valid, but realize that experts can contradict each other. Like Pamela might say this, but maybe I have another expert who also has a PhD who says the complete opposite. So you have to be on the lookout for expert opinions because they can often say opposite things. Examples. Examples are something specific that helps prove a larger point or argument. So let's say I'm trying to prove that animals are cooperative, just like human beings. Here's my example. One animal illustrating a high level of communication and cooperation is the dolphin. Dolphins show us that human beings are not the only species who works together. Now, these are also fairly reliable and valid, but realize that one example usually isn't enough. Good writers include many examples to prove their point, not just one. And lastly, we've got anecdotes, which are personal stories. I like to remember the phrase "this one time" because I often hear students use that phrase when they're beginning an anecdote. Here's an example. Once I tried to listen to music while doing my homework and it was impossible. That's why listening to music while working is a bad idea. Now, this is one person's experience. That's why anecdotes are usually unreliable and not valid. They definitely get your attention because they can be very vivid and include people's memories, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they prove a point. Lastly, generalizations or stereotypes. Generalization starts with the word general, which means large or broad. So these are broad statements about all or most of a group. For example, since most television is worthless, we should stop wasting so much time watching TV. Kids should open a book instead because TV can't teach you anything. Words like most television and TV can't teach you anything, those are very general. There's some TV out there that's super educational. So that's why this is a generalization or a stereotype about television. These are unreliable and they are not valid. And one final picture to hopefully cement these ideas in your mind is this political cartoon I found, where as you can see the word facts is nice and large on this big powerful cannon, and the word opinions is like this small pitiful flag. This just illustrates that facts are much stronger than opinions, and that's something that I want you to remember as readers when we're reading persuasive and informational text. Facts are going to speak much louder than opinions are. Now we're going to read a text together, and you won't have this text in front of you on paper. It'll only be on your screen through this video. The text is called Pro-Con, Getting the Kids to Eat Healthier School Meals. I'm previewing the text. I'm just going to start off by looking at this photograph, and I recognize the person in the center. That's Barack Obama's wife, the First Lady, Michelle Obama. So if I look down at below, it says First Lady Michelle Obama tends the White House garden in Washington, D.C. with a group of children as part of the Let's Move campaign. Photo, AP photo, Evan Vucci file. So that tells me that we're probably going to see something about Michelle Obama in this article. We're not exactly sure what though. You should have in front of you a worksheet. It looks like, let me see if I can find it. It looks like this. It is a triple entry diary. As we are reading, we're going to be looking at different excerpts from the text, and we're going to try to figure out what type of evidence is that, and is it reliable? Should I believe it? Let's get started. Pro. Pro means arguing for something. So this author thinks that the school lunch program is good. It's good for kids and for education. Washington. As a new school year begins, American parents should be thrilled to get behind First Lady Michelle Obama's campaign for healthier school lunches. Right away, I'm noticing that this author uses the words should be. Should be? That's an opinion phrase right there. So when I'm thinking about what type of evidence is this is definitely a personal opinion. This person thinks that parents should support Michelle Obama's campaign for healthier school lunches. So in my diary entry, where it says type of evidence or support, I'm going to say that this is a personal opinion. Then just to show that it's a personal opinion, I'm going to highlight in the text. Should be thrilled to get behind First Lady Michelle Obama's campaign for healthier school lunches. And I'm also going to add a little bit more of an explanation here, just to show that I really understand why this is a personal opinion. Because the author shows that she supports the program. All right. Then if I look back at my notes to see whether or not personal opinions are reliable or valid, I know that these are not exactly reliable or valid. So I'm going to say unreliable. They're telling us how they feel, but it's not really something that we can prove. Let's go back and keep reading the text. It is based on science and nutrition. Her goal is to make our kids healthier and happier. The First Lady wants to improve childhood health through better eating and more exercise. She wants it to be the issue she is known for. America has a weight problem, and many people aren't just overweight, they are obese. Childhood obesity has become a national problem. In 2012, 1 in 3 American children were overweight or obese. Overweight children are at higher risk of developing a variety of diseases, including heart disease and diabetes. Living with these diseases makes their lives worse and costs our nation hundreds of billions of dollars a year. This sounds like a much better piece of evidence to me because I see numbers. I see numbers like 1 in 3, and I also see a number down here that says obesity costs our nation hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Numbers reminded me of a type of evidence that we learned about. That type of evidence is called a statistic. So if I'm going to label which type of evidence this is, I want to write that this is a statistic because the author uses numbers to show research. Then I want to highlight the numbers. It says 1 in 3, American children were overweight or obese. Then down here, costs our nation hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Unlike personal opinions, statistics are reliable. So this is the author's strongest piece of evidence so far, I think.